airplanes. One hijacked American Airlines 767 jetliner plowed into the upper floors of the Twin Towers of New York City's World Trade Center just about 9 o'clock this morning.
First thing in the morning, the ring was alarming. At first I heard it was a bombing. I tuned in and got raunchy. I saw the second plane hit live and the buildings falling. People wouldn't stop calling. It's all shocking, or so they claim. Every channel on the television showed the same. It looked like a war zone, the whole terrain. But why be surprised if you know about the whole account? How the U.S. goes about consolidating finance. Countries' luxury and money's based on centuries of violence. The character of arrogance, Americans thinking the terrorists never here at home. But welcome to the Terror Dome.
Can you imagine how many people are dead? 3 airplanes, the World Trade Center,
America reaps the woes of the seeds it sows, and innocents weep for those casualties of wars. Bush said America's worst threat is terrorism, but the trouble is the greatest terrorist in the world is the American government.
The violence that he's perpetrated in other countries, here and abroad, I think the same violence.
It might look like a movie, but it's only true. For the death and destruction, there is no excuse. But the depth of corruption, there is no dispute. It's well known that your chickens come home to roost. It might look like a movie, but it's only true. For the death and destruction, there is no excuse. But the depth of corruption, there is no dispute. It's well known that your chickens come home to roost. They tell you about the tower deaths and the Pentagon, but they never say how many they killed in Desert Storm. Men, women, and children, the number was many more. But the deaths of civilians was something you never saw. America, massacres happened across the planet. They manufactured the language of collateral damage and added to the package with cost-benefit analysis. Cause that Iraqis mean though it cost gasoline. But the joke's on Bush, cause when the towers blew up, the price of gasoline flew up.
Oil had shot up better than $6 a barrel, now to close to $32 a barrel. So the financial pain.
Some said Palestinians shouldn't cheer like that, but they probably clapped watching bombs over Baghdad. And the sad fact is though the World Trade attack was horrible, some parts of the world stayed like that. You might cheer too if near you stayed in hysteria with weapons aimed at you. They made in America.
In the West Bank city of Nablus, thousands of Palestinians celebrating now, chanting God is great, distributing
It
candy.
might look like a movie, but it's only true. For the death and destruction, there is no excuse. For the death of corruption, there is no dispute. It's well known that your chickens come home to roost. It might look like a movie, but it's only true. For the death and destruction, there is no excuse. For the death of corruption, there is no dispute. It's well known that your chickens come home to roost.
Hey yo, my first taste, this earth's face, the worst place. A cursed race since Genesis, the birthplace. In the first place, we ain't seeing the worst case. How this hurt place can be saved, so earth pace, earth taste. The revelation, the church waits. At the first take, yo, the earth quakes. The world trades, that ain't nothing, there's worse flames. You reap what you sow, you need the first change.
It might look like a movie, but it's only true. For the death and destruction, there is no excuse. For the death of corruption, there is no dispute. It's well known that your chickens come home to roost. It might look like a movie, but it's only true. For the death and destruction, there is no excuse. For the death of corruption, there is no dispute. It's well known that your chickens come home to roost.
Wake this country up and realize that our number one responsibility is not education on a teacher, and it's not healthcare or married to a nurse. It is in fact the security and the safety of the American people.
The irony is that these attacks are the result of American policy infringing on the rights and the sovereignty of other nations and people. And these senators are trying to use the attacks as an excuse to get more power and more funding for the military and infringe further on our civil rights so they can further oppress people.
We don't simply hold the group itself, whoever it is. We hold anyone accountable, any country, any government accountable if they did nothing to stop it.
So we have to be really careful about these individuals who are talking about, well, we're going to go after the countries and those who harbor them and those who fund them, because that's not a far stretch from saying we're going to go after anyone who supports them or anyone who dissents against the American government. And then you're infringing upon freedom of speech. Before you know it, they're going to start going after recording artists who are saying things that the American government doesn't want to hear.